Alrighty, hello everybody. Greetings from Central America. I hope you're having a fantastic day so far. We are going to let you get logged into Zoom. I know sometimes it takes a minute or two to update to the latest software. So what I'm going to have you do is two things. One, make sure you have a pen and paper handy, or however it is that you best take notes, and number two, type into the Q&A section where it is you are calling in from. Find that Q&A section. From there, that is also where you'll be putting in your questions throughout the presentation. And then the last 15-20 minutes, we've really allocated that time to be your time. So we'll be able to go through your questions and get some answers. And it's neat. We've had a very international bunch over the last, I'd say, year and a half of doing these webinars. I think a lot of people are looking for either Plan B or generational wealth stewardship, or just an alternative investment that is not correlated to the stock market and does continue to grow regardless of what is going on. So, all right, we are going to get started here. Everyone get that pen and paper handy, and we will get moving. All right, so today I have a very new person here with me. She's been with the company for about half a year, but it's her first webinar. So I'd like to introduce you, Megan. And Meg, why don't you give us a little bit more about your story?
All right, so like Rachel was saying, I'm currently located in Belize as well. I've been down here for about 4 years now. So I came down beginning of 2017 to do manatee and monkey rescue, actually. So an internship totally separate from ECI, but I fell in love with Belize and the people here, the culture. So now I'm lucky enough to be working down here and calling it home. And we're excited to talk to you guys about Teak today.
Awesome. And I love that it was monkeys and manatees.
Yeah,
that's right.
I know everyone's like, so what? But it was amazing. And so, I really think it just changed my whole path with everything for Belize. So
yeah, it's true. And folks, for those of you out there who are thinking about making the move international, maybe you're looking for what it was that can get you overseas. There you go. Consider an internship with the wildlife. But Megan, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because something, and I don't actually think I have a slide for it in the presentation, is the fact, of course, with Teak being a reforested project, a sustainable project, that with ownership of a Teak parcel, there is a donation, a portion of the money that comes in that gets donated towards ACEs, American Crocodile Education Sanctuary here in Belize. They do a lot more than educating folks about crocodiles. They are very big into mangrove restoration, which is a critical part of the health of the reef where we're at here. But they also do just a lot of work generally with the ecosystems and wildlife. So do note that if you decide to become an owner, or if you are already an owner with us, a part of your purchase did end up going to ACEs, American Crocodile Education Sanctuary. They do an incredible amount of work throughout the island here, specifically Ambergris Key, which in turn just helps the world across the board, because we have the reef right here, the largest living reef in the world. Anyway, I can get going on a tangent, but we're gonna just jump right in here. So I really like to start these presentations by asking you what your goals are. For many of us, you're on this line for a different reason. Some people are looking at it from the security perspective, where you know that you own a hard asset. It's yours. It's in a market that's been around in the marketplace for a long time. Diversification across asset classes, of course, is very important. Timber, teak wood is very different from the usual stocks and bonds. It's also diversification in terms of countries. And then third, it's also asset protection in terms of timelines to when you start to see your profit come in, which is great. If you are somebody who is a real estate investor and you're used to getting those monthly rental checks in from your tenants, or perhaps you own Airbnbs across the board and you typically get that income coming in after somebody stays with you for a few days, I'm going to challenge you to think outside the box, because Teak is a long-term investment, but it covers that diversification of asset classes and timeline and country. In addition to that, legacy. Are you looking to leave something for your kids or grandkids or nieces or nephews, or a foundation or charity that you like? Freedom and Plan B, and those two really do go together there, because with ownership of Teak, you are able to pair that up with a residency in both Nicaragua and Panama, where we're going to be talking about today. But I'm going to pull up a poll here, and I'm just curious as to what it is that you want to accomplish from Teak ownership. And perhaps you already have Teak with us. That's great. You can put in there the reason why it is that you decided to own the Teak, and maybe you're somebody who's just starting to look at Teak and you're figuring out why it is that you should be doing it. But feel free, I'm going to give you guys just 10 more seconds here. Find that poll there. All right, I'm seeing it's kind of spread. I'll give you 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And you don't have to be shy with this either. It's always good to know who's on the other end here, especially because we can't see you. But it does look like diversification is the leading factor there. Some people kind of from securities, some people from legacy freedom, and then that plan B aspect as well. Awesome. Well, good to see that. We will make sure we cover the importance of diversification here as well throughout the presentation. So I just wanted to jump into it. When you decide to own Teak, you really are accomplishing that concept of generational wealth stewardship. We're going to get through that in the presentation. In addition to that, you own a real tangible asset. So it's yours. And a lot of times people like knowing that what they invest in, they're able to see. It's more than a concept, right? It's actually they're growing out of the ground. Each year it's growing in size, it's growing in value because there's more board feet. And you can officially become a tree hugger if you want and actually hug that tree when you come down to visit. In addition to that, if you are an American citizen and you have a self-directed IRA, you can use it in Nicaragua. And then if you are somebody who's into cryptocurrency, you're able to use your cryptocurrency to own Teak. And then ultimately you leave a timeless legacy. You leave it for that kid or the grandkid or whoever it is that you want to pass it down to over time. But a couple of people I want to mention before we jump in here, Mike Cobb and Joel Nagel, those are our two co-founders of the organization. They first planted their first teak farm back in 1999. If you were one of the lucky ones to get in on that farm, the trees are nearing maturation in the next 3 to 4 years, which we're really excited about. But don't worry if you were not able to get in on that teak farm. We do have older trees that are available for you to own as well. And then some other key members of our team here, in addition to the other professionals that are sitting behind the screens, making sure that your investment is being well taken care of. There are over 100 people in the organization. And these are anybody from accountants and from our real estate side, our property management side. We have operations team, sales, marketing, just everyone across the board. So do know that it's not just us here. We do have a handful of folks making sure your investment is well taken care of. So we're going to jump into the top 3 reasons why it is that people are owning timber. And we're going to just jump into the first one there. Easy enough, giving back to Mother Nature. Tell us a little bit more about that, Megan.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So obviously that's going to be number one. When you're becoming a teak owner, you are going to be an owner of a certified reforested property. Mm-hmm. So it's always going to be harvested and replanted. It's never going to be condos. It's never going to be buildings or anything. So, you're really committing to giving back to Mother Nature when you're purchasing the teak.
It's true. And especially with the reforestation benefits, I don't have it written down on the slide here, but do get your pen and paper handy that I mentioned earlier. When you are owning in the farms, it's certified reforested, as Megan mentioned. And what that means is extra benefits passed down to you too. In Panama, there's no property tax. And there's also no income tax in Panama on your harvest yield. So you can jot that down. And then in Nicaragua, we were able to get a really great tax exoneration. So huge benefits for you for committing to reforestation. In addition to that, when you are owning an investment, it doesn't matter what it is, it's always important to know what the demand is, the supply and demand, it's basic economics. Well, with timber and teak specifically, there does continue to be a demand for it, but the supply is low. So let's go into what that means. So teak specifically is being harvested at a rate of 8 to 12 times faster than it is being replanted. So what that means in layman's terms is that it's being harvested quickly, but it's not being replanted quick enough to keep up with the demand. That's a good thing. That's a very good thing for the investors because you know that you have that market there. In addition, as people, the world becomes more populous, the demand for luxury hardwood or fine hardwood continues to increase. And that makes sense. People want nice hardwood. They want to continue to construct nice furniture and have luxury products. And so as the population increases, that demand does increase as well. And I do want to mention too, for anybody who is a DIYer or somebody who was in home improvement last year or over the last year and a half, as we were in this crazy time, you probably saw that wood prices increase. It skyrocketed because now all of a sudden people had a little bit of extra time to focus on their home to make those improvements. And so the supply didn't necessarily increase, but the demand increased. So we saw this huge influx in prices, and that applied to teak as well, but just goes to show there how there is this demand for it. In addition to that, you always want to know who's going to be the end consumer, right? Is there a market for the product that you're putting there into the marketplace? And teak, it's an interesting one. It's been around for centuries, but at the end of the day, when you look at who's buying the teak, the two countries that are buying the most amount of teak are also the ones that are projected to be the most populous by 2100. So that brings us to India and China, as you can see there at the top of the screen. You may not be surprised by that, but these are the two largest consumers of teak. And you may be wondering why. Well, teak is very, very durable. We're going to go through some of the special qualities about it, but it can withstand many elements, and it is also used in a lot of outdoor furniture, fine furniture, construction for luxury homes, and it's just very durable and honestly lasts for centuries. And so when people are buying hardwood products, they want something that is going to last, and teak does such that. So India and China has a tremendous amount of millionaires, billionaires, wealthy folks there in the country who are looking to show up their wealth a little bit and have a nice product. In addition to that, when you compare the prices of naturally growing teak to plantation teak, you do see that plantation teak continues to be more expensive and increase at a higher rate than naturally deforested teak in terms of value, which when at the end of the day, it makes a lot of sense. You think plantation teak, it's grown with the intent to harvest it and sell it. So it's well taken care of, it's managed, it's pruned, it's thinned regularly. Whereas naturally growing teak, it's just, one of the little seed pods that end up growing on the side of the road, and it doesn't necessarily have that sort of maintenance. So if you do harvest that one tree, it may not necessarily have the same remarkable qualities or characteristics that trees that are growing in a plantation tend to have. In addition to that, there are 4 countries where teak grows naturally: India, Laos, Indonesia, and Myanmar. And those countries place logging bans on trees that were growing naturally just because there's a huge demand for it. The Burmese teak specifically, Tacoda grandis, I believe is how you pronounce the name, which is the same teak that we're growing, but it's really beautiful hardwood, and it just continues to be in demand as a result. All right, point number 3, why it is people are owning teak. Number 3, as you can see there on the right-hand side, is the above average returns. And it really is a safe investment to hold on to because it has real value there. Here's a graph that you see. Timber is the black line. Timber is above the S&P when it comes to return on investment. So there it basically says timberland investors have continued to make more than people who are just invested in the S&P or in the stock market, and you don't have the stock market frightening volatility. I don't know, maybe there are some of you out there who enjoy sitting in front of a computer and watching stocks go up and down and trying to speculate what's going to happen next. I think a lot of us would rather just know that our investment is growing without us having to do anything, and timber really does just that. Teak, you plant it, you make sure it's being managed properly, you have the management team take care of that, and then from there it just grows. And we have had some owners who wanted to get their kids involved in the growing process, so they asked us if the kids can come down and plant the trees and help thin and do all that. And if you really want to, you're more than welcome to do that. We'll let you know when it is that it's going to happen, but you can certainly get involved. But most people, I think, want to just be hands off and forget about it and let it grow. Now, here is a graph or chart rather that shows the investment growth in timber from 1971 rather to 2010. An investment of $10,000 grew to about $1.5 million. And when you do the math there, you see it's about 40 years. It's about 40 years that investment grew. And I think, again, thinking outside the box, thinking creativity, thinking for the long term, that's exactly what you need to do here. If you're used to those monthly rent checks or the Airbnb income that comes in, understand that when you own timber, you are going to be earning profit as we harvest, as we thin. Now, teak is a 25-year harvest cycle. So from the time the seeds are planted to the time that it's harvested, it's about 25 years. There could be some factors in play that make it 26, 27 years, but more or less the best time value of money is at age 25 for teak. So in between that 25-year period, there are a couple of thinnings that happen, which is when we remove the trees that aren't growing as well to make room for the ones that are growing well to grow even bigger. So during the thinning years, you do receive some profit coming back from that age 12, 18, and 20, but the real bulk sum comes at age 25. So again, thinking outside the box, thinking a little bit differently than your traditional investment mindset. Dr. Steve Sugarroot, he's an economist, and he says trees grow through recessions, they grow through wars, they grow through stock and real estate crashes, they grow through everything. They give you built-in investment growth that isn't guaranteed with a stock. And I can tell you from 2008 to 2012, one of the worst recessions in history, the trees continued to grow. They just continued to grow and do their thing. And then in 2020, what a crazy year that was, the trees continued to grow as well. So, it's just nice to know that you have an investment that's not correlated to the stock market and will continue to do its thing regardless of what's happening. Now, for a really long time, timber ownership has been reserved for the ultra wealthy, for that top 1%, the people who have the extra hundreds of millions of dollars to spend towards a vast amount of land for them to be growing timber and harvesting. And you'll see here on the screen a few folks, John Malone, Ted Turner endowment funds, that have a nice percentage of their portfolio in timbers, and not necessarily teak specifically, but timber more generally, and thinking along that same mindset of generational wealth. Endowment funds, I thought, was one of the most interesting. Harvard Endowment Fund has 10% of its assets in timber. This is just one of the many endowment funds. We have a full report which goes through a few others, but if you want that report, just ask us for the Teak resource guide to the email address there at the bottom left, info@teakhardwoods.com. We'll send that over to you. But in addition, here are just a few other examples. Forbes 400 owners who, as you can see, have hundreds of millions of dollars invested in timber. And I had an email actually from somebody just a couple of days ago. And he's like, I want nothing to do with the Forbes 400 owners. I'm like, sure, I understand that. But if you could invest like a Forbes 400 owner, wouldn't you do so? And you don't necessarily have to spend the hundreds of millions of dollars to get there. I would absolutely replicate exactly what somebody else is doing, a successful company or a successful person is doing, replicate it to the extent that I can, and then go from there. Why reinvent the wheel if we don't have to? But these families have already figured it out. And what they realize is it's something that you hold on to generationally. And it's great. If you see a harvest or two or three, depending on your age, fantastic. But understand that you're going to have it and continue to pass it down the line for generations. If you want to, if you need to liquidate it at any point, you're able to do so. It can come back to us and we can help you sell it, or we'll buy it back from you. But most people, I think out of all, we have probably about maybe about 700, 800 teak owners across all the farms. Most people have held on to it over the years. I think we've had 3 or 4 who've had to sell their parcels due to life circumstances. But at the end of the day, people understand that minimum investment in, hold on to it, continue to maintain it for the years, and then you just pass it on. And maybe you don't necessarily have kids or grandkids yet, but you may have a favorite niece or a favorite nephew or a charity that you would want to donate it to down the line. We have had people do all of the above. And so it really is up to you. But again, when you look at the sort of numbers that these big shots are investing in timber, they obviously have done the market research. They understand the profit, or the ability for profit when they're investing in timber. So the nice thing, and think about it like this. So if you are, someone who's investing these hundreds of millions of dollars, or maybe you're somebody who's investing in a parcel or two with us, what they're realizing is that you own the trees now, you own the land as well. Let's say we go through our next harvest in 10 years for the teenage trees. And then from there, there'll be a nice lump sum of money that comes in. You still own the land. And then like Megan mentioned with the reforestation, you replant and you do it again, and you still own the land. You still have that timber ownership. And for a lot of people, I think that that's very advantageous, especially when they're thinking about generational wealth stewardship. And then in 2013, we as Teak Hardwoods opened up our farm. At that point, it was 12 maybe, when the then president came out with a residency program where you were able to pair up land ownership with a residency, the Friendly Nations visa in Panama. So 2013, we paired up the teak and the residency. And then we just had a lot of folks who were understanding the benefits of it. And some were doing it for residency, some were doing it for that diversification aspect that some of you checked off on the poll earlier. But here are some of your fellow owners. These are folks from a group that we work with called Live and Invest Overseas. Well, we've had many different outlets come to us for many different reasons, but it gives you, just go back one more slide, but it gives you a good opportunity to see that you don't have to be that mega millionaire or super wealthy to get invested. You can own your own parcel. You can hug your own tree, as Dirk is doing there in the middle, and it's yours. And the land continues to be yours for however long you want to hold on to it for, because you do get title to it. So teak has been around for a long time. It's not just something that we created or fabricated in a lab or a factory or anything along those lines. It's been around, and there's good reason why it has been around for a while. Tell us a little bit more about that, Megan.
All right. Yeah. So like you were saying, I mean, historically it's been used for furniture, ships, hardwood. I mean, a lot of luxury items.
Yes.
But you can kind of see here, it's really hard. It's durable. You can see from the photo, the little bit of an oily finish. It makes it a really pretty wood as well. But importantly too, it's resistant after 3 years, insects, termites, fungus, rot, fire. So, I mean, that's really important for knowing your risk of investment as well. So
yeah, and I do want to just highlight that one there, guys. Everyone look at bullet point number 2. It says resistant to insects, termites, fungus, rot, fire. So you obviously need to know about the risks of an investment prior to going into it. And agriculture, the first thing I can maybe the first thing on your mind, I can tell you the first thing that I think about is the fire aspect, right? It's fire, like agriculture going, all right, forest fire. Well, after age 3, teak is resistant to that. There are extra precautions taken prior to age 3, but after age 3, it is resistant to that. So do bear that in mind. That's a huge benefit. And we'll talk a little bit more about the real risks later on in the presentation.
Okay, and then here we have the Chris Craft, which a lot of people know is a trademark for teak. They use it for most of their boats. And I mean, those boats can be hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on what you're doing, but they use teak for everything. So it's a really beautiful for the finish. And then Wayfair is another luxury website that you guys can go to. Here's just a chair that's a little under $800, but I mean, it's beautiful. And you're paying really for it to last for a really long time. So then we have the shower mats, which I think are also maybe for hotels and some luxury things, but some people, you know, they buy it. So
yeah, that's a luxury
you guys can
product.
check out a lot of the stuff on Wayfair. And then here's just another one, the teak horse. So this price, a little under $3,000, but you know, a lot of people will decorate their homes, beach houses, things like that with stuff like this. So.
Yeah, and you know, something I want to point out with this one too, you know, for that empty corner that you have, it is really cute, but you can see, you know, when you look at the wood there, that is wood of teak that's not 25 years. So I mentioned to you the thinnings that happen at age 12, 18, and 20. So the wood that you see there is actually thinning wood. So when we sell the trees, wood could be used for something like this rustic teak horse, but you can just see there's real value there. And, you know, sometimes we joke at these prices because, you know, we laugh at them because it's, you know, $2,900 at 24% off for a horse like this, but there's real value to it. And people are buying these things. And you can go to wayfair.com and just type teak in and see some other products if you want that are made out of teak. But, you know, when you look at the price tags, you see that it really is a luxury hardwood, and the luxury market, regardless of what's going on in the marketplace generally, really isn't affected tremendously. And so when you look at who the buyers are of these end products, there will continue to be a teak market over time.
Okay. Oh yeah. And then we have the lofts. So this is 45 million, but all hardwood floor made out of teak and stuff too. So it's really beautiful. And then the gates, you know about this, don't you?
Yes.
So you and Betsy met the guy.
Yeah. So Betsy, one of our coworkers, and I were at a conference in Panama a few years ago, and we did the teak presentation. He came up to us after. He goes, I'm from, I think it's Connecticut, Northeast. And he goes, I have a gate business. And I'm like, a gate business? And he's like going through it. Oh, he makes custom gates with hardwoods for his clients. And so he sent over actually a couple of the pictures there, but, and this was from a few years ago. So I'm sure prices have gone up tremendously, but teak gates at the point, they were starting at $65,000. And one of the gates here belongs to Anne Hathaway, which I thought was interesting. If she still owns that house, this is the gate that is there. But you can see that there's a big price tag because of what Megan mentioned is the durability and the fact that it lasts for a very, very long time.
Okay, and a couple more things. Actually, the one in the bottom is another one that someone from ECI actually restored. So some of the furniture is new, some of it's restored, but it just shows again how much, you know, you really can refurbish this and use it for years. And from the Titanic. So another one, this one was pulled out of the ocean. So that's really just an actual testament to how much it can last.
Yeah, and even like when you think about Titanic over 100 years ago, the fact that it's still looking like that's in a museum now, but you're able to see it again, going back to that longevity aspect. So teak has been around for a while. It's used in a lot of, like we said, fine furniture. The little picture that we have behind us here, that is, of course, some teak furniture as well, but it's just beautiful. It lasts and withstands the elements. And in order for teak to grow properly, it really does need to be in the right elements. So it needs to have a dry season, the well-drained alluvial soil. And so whenever we're going into new locations, we make sure we're doing soil samples. We bring in the agronomist to make sure it makes sense for us to grow there. There are actually many places within Central America where teak will will grow because it has a climate, a nice climate for it, but they may not have the right soil. They may not have the right amount of dry or wet season. And so it really is important at the end of the day to make sure that you're planting in the right place. And where we're located in Panama, it's on the east side of the country. It's about a 3.5 hour drive from Panama City. But the good part is on the Pan American Highway, which was just recently repaved. So it's smooth. You don't have to worry about any bump. Well, some of it's a little bit bumpy, but it's all paved, which is at least a nice advantage there. But if you've been to Panama before, you probably, unless you come on a teak tour with us, probably don't venture out here to the eastern side of the country. Truthfully, there's just not much out there. There is an indigenous population, the Gunayalas, that live there, which is actually quite fascinating to see. But at the end of the day, it does end up being a lot of farms, trees specifically. There are papayas out there, other teak trees, but it's just really a great place for agriculture because of the fact that it has that right soil, it has the right climate, and it really is not prone to natural disasters. I do get that question quite a bit, but you can see it's inland, so you don't have to worry about hurricanes or any of those natural disasters. 1999, so this is our first farm that was planted, so it was 23 years ago. 2000, the trees were growing. 2007, the needed dry season. 13, when I mentioned we started offering this program, so that was one of our first trips down here. And then we do try to go every year, 2-3 times a year, with our investors to see the trees. We understand it's important for you to right down there be able to see the tree, hug it, hold on to it, and just see. And at the end of the day, really, it's not too exciting to go out to a teak farm, but what makes it exciting is the company, being around other like-minded people, getting to see your trees, meeting the management company, and seeing that it's real. 2020, this was back in January 2020, before the world shut down. We were able to get out there with a good group. And then 2021, we did end up going in June. We are going to be planning on another tour in February in Panama specifically, but reach out to us and we'll get all of those dates over to you.
All right, so the opportunities, guys, for Panama. So we do have the newborn, the 0-year-old teak. So that's going to start at $6,880. The ROI projection for that is about 94,000. And then we have the 15-year-old teak, which we were talking about. So the teenage teak is going to start at 16,880, and it's going to be about 92,000. These numbers aren't set, so if you guys want to see the business plan, we can send that over to you as well.
Yes, yeah, please.
Probably a little on the conservative side at this point now.
Yeah,
right?
I would say so. This has the so how we calculate the numbers is the board foot, number of board feet, times the value of it. So what is being sold for in the marketplace? This is at about $15 a board foot. And so this is per parcel, per quarter acre parcel, what you can expect. But again, it's not set in stone. These are estimates based on how the market has produced. We do not include any increase in value to teak. We do know that historically teak has grown at about 5.5% per year, but this is based on today's price. So these are net numbers. But like Megan said, reach out to us for the business plan and you'll be able to see the charts in there.
All right, and we're celebrating birthday for the teenage teak. So starting on Friday, there is going to be a price increase because it'll be going to 16 years old. So it is going to go from 16,880 to 18,866. So if you guys want to get locked in at the current price, please reach out to us before Friday.
Yes, they celebrated their sweet 16. The time is flying already. And so how you benefit, I mentioned this before, but you own the land and you own the tree. So it's yours. You can title it in your name and your kid's name, however it is you want to. What I've seen some of the more creative, savvier investors doing is owning a couple of different parcels that are a different age. So they have laddered years of profit. So we talked about the thinnings age, I say with me, 12, 18, and 20, the final harvest at age 25. But if you have a teak, let's say a 16-year-old teak parcel, for example, and a newborn teak parcel, then you're getting payouts at different times, which is encouraging. Then you don't have to wait that 12 years or wait the 18 years. There's something coming back, every few years. In addition to that, there's the professional management team. This is an older photo there of Jacobo, but he and his team have been with us since the beginning. Jacobo was actually one of the guys that helped us to find the original farm that we ended up growing back in 1998 when we found it, 1999 when we did the planting. And they're with us every step of the way, making sure that where we are owning and deciding to plant makes sense. We need to we profit, we as a company profit when you profit. Our fees are taken as percentages at the end. The numbers Megan presented were net numbers, but our success is with your success too. So we need to make sure those trees are growing properly. And Hale Forestal, they are incredible industry leaders. They know the teak industry inside and out. They know our properties inside and out, and they make sure the teak is growing properly. And of course, we just invite you to join our family. There is the opportunity for you to get residency. If you invest in $200,000 or more worth of teak, we can put together some packages for you. You can invest in teak that way for the residency purpose. If you are planning, feel free to reach out to us if that is a goal. I don't think we really have slides in this presentation about it, but we're happy to talk to you. There are some other folks who've gone through the process with us. Everything gone smoothly, people getting their schedules, people getting their Plan B residency cards, which is just exciting. Maybe you want to move to Panama at some point, maybe you don't, but at least you know that you have that option there. All right, so we're going to jump over to Nicaragua at this point. And the Nicaragua teak really started as a result of people from our Panama farm saying they wanted more land and they wanted to be even more diversified. So yes, we had different age teak in Nicaragua, but then it's also a different country entirely. And so we did just a lot of searching around Latin America, Central America specifically, to see where it made sense. We ended up in our own backyard. As a company, we've actually been based in Nicaragua for the last 20-ish years. It's a place that is very near and dear to our hearts, a place that we all call home to some extent. And so if you've never considered Nicaragua before, I highly encourage you to at least listen and hear what we're saying, because the teak opportunity in Nicaragua is really just as great as in Panama. They have a great soil there, the great location. We have a full-time team who is there to take care of the trees at all times of the day, all parts of the year. I mean, their only job is to make sure their trees are growing properly. So where we're located is about an hour from Managua. You can see that yellow hexagon there, which highlights the location that we're in, but we do have multiple farms there at that Grand Pacifica property. The first phase is sold out. Those trees actually just turned 5, but that first phase is entirely sold out at this point. So what do? Every year we plant more trees. We plant more trees because what we understand is that there is a continuing market for them. So when one set of trees hits 25 years old, then we'll have the next year will be the 25th year, and the next year after that for the next planting, and the next year after that for the next planting. So there's always that income stream coming in as long as you're smart enough and plant them initially. So here we have the newborn teak at Grand Pacifica, 150 parcels. We have a little bit more at this point, but they're quarter acres, 6880, and then net profits there of about 94,000. Again, then just based on the market conditions today, can't guarantee anything in the future, but just based on what it is today. And here are some pictures from the nursery. So we do have an on-site nursery. We make sure everything's growing properly. We have Domingo, who's been with us since we first got the property, and he knows the property inside and out. He helps us to manage the nursery over here. But the picture on the left is from an intern, Ollie, we had at the time from the Netherlands. And he was in the farm that's now 5. This was probably about 2-3 years ago. You can just see how big the leaves get from just being a few years old. This is from one of the plantings of our first farm there as well. This is when the trees were really quite young. We had some owners come and walk their land and make sure it all looked good to them. And I don't know if Eric's online here. Hello, Eric, if you are. Hello, if you're listening a little bit later. But Eric and his family, actually, his brother is one of the youngest investors in the teak farm in Panama specifically. And I think he was 21. Lenny was 21 at the time that he invested. Luckily, he has a great brother who introduced him to the international world of alternative investments. But for those of you who may be coming in a little bit past 21, don't worry, it's not too late for you. Sometimes I do get that, but I have to say our oldest investor was 93 at the time that he invested. He had great grandchildren and bought them each a parcel of the at that point, the teenage teak, and then gifted it to them just for them to have it and to let it grow and continue on. So maybe if you are listening to this, like, oh, I can't even think in the 9-year time frame for the teenage teak. Think about someone who you believe would benefit from it. I think many of us really enjoy the opportunity and like the opportunity, but sometimes it's a little bit harder to think down that timeline.
All right. Yeah. So just to recap, guys, then we still have the newborn teak in Nicaragua. So that's going to be 6,880 as well, just like Panama. And then we have the 1-year-old, the baby teak, which is going to be a little bit more. So that's going to be 7,380. the returns are, relatively about the same. So.
Yep, exactly. And the only reason why there's a slight difference with the returns for Grand Pacifica newborn teak and the Panama newborn teak is because there's an annual fee that gets paid, $125 a year in Nicaragua and $150 a year in Panama. Labor costs are a little bit more in Panama, but that is crucial. Those payments are crucial because what that covers is the upkeep of your farm, making sure the trees are growing properly. We do pruning, making sure that the trees are bare from about 2/3 down. So it is important that we do that cleaning, but it's nominal at the end of the day, minimal. It is factored into the numbers. So just know that, and that's why I would recommend the business plan that Megan mentioned earlier, because it does have a breakdown of all of this, so you're able to see it. And just like in Panama, you own the land and you own the trees. And actually in Nicaragua, it's a lot easier for you to use your self-directed IRA. So if you're somebody who has a little bit of extra cash, you want to use your self-directed IRA, you're able to do that. Your property can be held in the name of your custodian. In Panama, it's a little bit more complicated and a little bit more costly to do that. But Nicaragua is really where most folks tend to go if they want to use their IRA. In the latter years of profit. So, maybe you have a newborn teak, maybe you have a 1-year-old teak and a 16-year-old teak. And we have people who are like, all right, put us on the list as soon as you plant the next trees, because they just want to have a consecutive, if they get a parcel every year, newborn parcel every year, then what they're doing is setting themselves up for those latter years of profits down the line. And then what happens? You harvest and then you replant and you do it again. It is certified reforested. Like Megan said, you're not going to be putting condos, your own log cabin up there, because it is certified to be a reforested property forever. And that's why you get those nice benefits too. But, I know for me, I do tend to be the black sheep in the family. And when I first moved to Nicaragua back in 2012, my family thought I was crazy. They didn't understand what I was doing. I'm from New York originally, and they're big believers in the stock market and real estate in New York, but they couldn't really get their head around this alternative investment concept. And so eventually, this is from 2016, this picture is, I got my parents' plane tickets, I brought them down to Panama, and then I put them on a bus because we had a teak tour. Yes, we had a teak tour. They didn't know that, but there was a teak tour that I put them on, and they got to meet other folks like the like-minded people coming together. And at the end of the day, it was about a year or two later, but they did decide that they wanted to be tree huggers too, and ultimately owned their parcels. So the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is now. So if you ever want to come down and see the farms, I highly encourage you to do so. Join our field trips. We have trips coming up in 2022. The next one, I believe, is going to be the 19th of February, but just reach out. And that's in Panama specifically, but just reach out to us and we can send those dates over to you. And then meet the team. So this is the team at the other end of the computer who will be guiding you through. There are a lot of different opportunities, as Megan mentioned, going through the newborn, the teenage, the 1-year-old teak. Which one best fits you really depends on the situation that you're in and what you want to accomplish and ultimately what those goals are. And so we have a great team of folks who can help you through that, go through your questions and answers, and make sure you're being well taken care of. So we have the 4 opportunities that were mentioned. We do have them on a comparison chart. As you can see here, just reach out to us if you'd like us to send you that PDF. We have the 1-year-old, the newborn in Panama, the newborn in Nicaragua, and then the teenage, which is turning 16 on Friday. But we can certainly go through these details with you. Now, I like to reward the doers, the people who are here, the people who are listening. And so for the webinar, for you being on the webinar, we do have a special discount for you, $200 off each parcel. Just depending on how many you want, you can get $200 off each parcel. And then from there, figure out what the best equation is for you. And then just a reminder that teenage teak in Panama does turn another year older on Friday. It actually was in October here, but we wanted to give you folks on the webinar a little bit more of a chance to get the information and then decide if this is right for you. So do note that effective this Friday, there will be this change in payment. As Megan mentioned, $16,880 now today, and then you still get the $200 off if you want to, if you decide to own. But if you come back to us on Saturday or Sunday, your $200 off will be off the $18,866. So just bear that in mind. Some of you, I'm just looking at the list here, a lot of you have actually been in touch with us for a while, and hopefully this is a good incentive for you. And then also it's the holiday season, and we understand that some of you are planning to gift your teak. especially those who are thinking under the gifting limit, which is great, maybe a newborn teak or 1-year-old teak. But sometimes it may be harder for the recipient of the gift to really understand what it is that you're giving. Like, teak, I don't get it. What is it? So we are going to be sending you a complimentary teak cutting board. We will send you one per parcel. So if you're giving out to multiple kids or grandkids or friends, you can indeed put this under the Christmas tree or the menorah, put a little bow on it, put their name on it, and then give it to them to help conceptualize what it is. It's a beautiful cutting board. As you can see, it's a beautiful hardwood as well. And it's just a great way to really symbolize what the ownership is. So I'm going to leave this up here for the next couple of minutes. I see some questions that have come through over the webinar time, so we will get through those. I do want to mention a couple of things. Again, that this webinar special is good for $200 off, but the teenage one, that will jump up to $18,866 on Friday, and then end of day Friday, it'll get bumped up there. So please, please, please do bear that in mind. If you're somebody who's looking at residency, please do let me know, and I will be able to get that over to you. I see Selim, I'm just looking at the comments here. Selim, you want more information about the residency. And I'll give you just a quick overview. I don't know if you're looking at Nicaragua or Panama. In Panama, they have changed the residency recently. You have to invest $200,000 or more in the country to get the Friendly Nations visa. If that would be of interest to you, let us know. We can work through that. It is a 5-year temporary residency, and then after the 5th year, it becomes permanent. Or what some folks have done is owned teak in Nicaragua. We have a residency bundle where you're able to own teak in Nicaragua. In Nicaragua, it's $30,000 that you have to invest in the country. You have to title the name of your teak parcels in the name of a Nicaragua corporation. We have an attorney who will help you with that, but it's just a minimum of $30,000, which is significantly less than what it is in Panama. But that one's a 5-year temporary residency. Then you would just reapply again thereafter. So just as a heads up. All right, Jeffrey, good to see your name here. Is an investment in teak a purchase of deeded land? Yes, it is. So you do get title to the land. For those of you who are new to the international world of investing, and specifically Panama and Nicaragua, please understand that it takes some time to get the physical deed. Your promissory note, your purchase agreement that's countersigned, acts as the deed until you physically get the deed from the lands department. But hear me out on this. Panama takes about 18 to 24 months for you to get that physical deed in your hand, but that countersigned promissory note acts as your deed in the meantime. So hear me there. In Nicaragua, it's about 3 to 6 months, but again, still a little bit longer than what we're used to in North America. So just go in with that understanding, go in with that expectation, and it'll be easier to acknowledge it down the line. No surprises. Jeffrey is also asking, is there an ongoing monthly fee for upkeep? Yes. Well, not monthly, it's annual, $150 per parcel in Panama, and then $125 per parcel in Nicaragua. That is based on today's cost for labor and whatnot. But do note that those fees cover the cleanings, which are critical for the health of the plantation and for your trees, because you want it from about 2/3 of the tree down to be branchless. And then in addition to that, we don't want any brush growing on the floor. So we'll clean that up and make sure that it's all clean, because the teak really demands all the nutrients in the soil. So that is critical. And we do charge on an annual basis in the beginning of the year. Some folks, we can do credit card or check or whatnot, but some folks pay for five years at a time up front, so they don't have to worry about it down the line. And it locks you into today's price. All right, Jeffrey here. What is the process of buying and closing on teak land? Okay, great question. So we will send you the reservation form. You'll send the reservation form back to us online. It's something you can type right into the form online, so you don't need to print it or any of that. But you just type into it, send it back to us. From there, we will send you, and with the reservation form, please submit the color page of your passport. And then from there, we'll put the paperwork together for you, send you the paperwork. You'll go through it, send it back to us after you sign it. We'll countersign it. For Nicaragua, we do need the originals. In Panama, we do not need the originals. A scanned copy is fine. But then once we receive the paperwork, it's all countersigned. There are a couple KYC documents we need from for our bank from you. We'll send that over. And then once it's all good to go, we receive money, we'll send you the receipt, and then the power of attorney. So the power of attorney, hear me on this, the POA is what authorizes us to transfer the title from us to you. And you'll see there that it says at the bottom part of those rectangles, the green rectangles, it says titling, including titling. Titling fees in each country varies, but that is a government cost that is needed in order that you pay to transfer the title from us to you. So in Panama, it's 3%. That's the titling fees. You can kind of see it here at the bottom part of the screen. But in Panama, it's 5% government fee plus $600 attorney fee. So just a heads up there, but this is all broken down in a comparison chart. It's also going to be in that business plan. We want to be as transparent as possible with you all, but you need a little bit of you need to look at the documents we send you too. I know some people don't look at them all the time, but it is important for you to know them and also understand them. And then from there, Jeff, when we get your power of attorney in, then that's where that timeline, that countdown really comes. We're 18 to 24 months to get your title in Panama, and then Nicaragua about 3 to 6 months. So each process for the power of attorney varies a little bit. In Panama, you do need to physically go to a consulate, or when you come down to Panama, you go to a notary and get your documents done. And then in Nicaragua, you can just mail it in. So it's a little bit easier in Nicaragua to get the power of attorney done. In Panama, again, no rush though in the power of attorneys necessarily, because your countersigned document acts as the promissory note. So if you wanted to wait until next, or your countersigned promissory note acts as your deed. So if you wanted to hold off on getting that done until you can come to Panama and easily go to a notary, you can certainly do that as well. And then Jeffrey, you are on it with the questions today. I love it. Jeffrey, business plan, yes. And then he says, yes, 2 tiny homes equal residency. Yes, that too. So if anybody's interested in the tiny home market, please let us know. We're happy to talk to you about that. We got tiny homes all across Central America. And actually, I'm glad that you mentioned that, Jeffrey, because part of the tiny homes in Panama will be built out of teak. So that was a pretty neat way to bring the two together. Thank you for that. And then Jeffrey's asking here if is ECI involved with the resale parcels? Yes, we certainly can be, but we don't have to be. I mean, we should know about the transaction if you sell it to somebody else so that they're noted down in our files and we send quarterly updates and everything. But if you have a friend or family member or whomever that you want to sell it to, you're able to do that. We'll link you up with the attorney to make that power of attorney process happen. So you're doing the title transfer. But we could be. Otherwise, you can sell it on your own as well. All right, I'm seeing here is the Timberland inflation S&P graph through 2020. I don't have one through 2020, but I'll certainly look to see what I can find for 2020 for you on that, Brian. So thank you for that question. All right, I know we went through this quite quickly. There's a lot of information out there, folks, but we just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for taking action. Thank you for being a doer. I think that that's probably one of my favorite parts of what we're doing here is educating people and making them aware of the opportunities. I mean, if it's something that fits for you, then fantastic. But before we actually hop off, I do have one more poll for you. And that is going to be here. Which farm are you most interested in? Which farm are you most interested in? The teenage Panama one, the one that turned 16 last month, the newborn, in Panama, the newborn in Nicaragua, a 1-year-old parcel in Nicaragua, or perhaps a laddered bundle. Maybe you're looking for a mix and match, which is a great concept to achieve that diversification aspect. I will give you guys just a few more seconds, and it doesn't have to be set in stone, but at least this way we're able to get you the business plan, and we don't have to have all that back and forth. This will just get you the business plan right away. I'll give you 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, perfect. So it looks like 44% of the people are interested in the teenage farm, 22% in the newborn Panama, 22% in the newborn Nicaragua, and then 11% in the mix and match. Awesome. Well, thank you for your participation there, guys. We really look forward to welcoming you into the family. I think, like I said, a big part of this and why we're doing what we're doing is to help connect like-minded investors to opportunities that are affordable, that are there, that you get title to. And we just, we're here for you. So let us know if you have any other questions. Megan, any last comments?
No, just thanks for my first webinar, guys. I was a little nervous, but
you did great.
Hey, thank you. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.